Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Bad Dog Comedy TV. It's comedy live on YouTube, and tonight it's Wednesday, and it's the season finale of 5 Things with Alia Ceniza Rasul. Please give it up for Alia.
Hi, welcome to 5 Things. I am your host, Alia Ceniza Rasul. And before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that we here at the Bad Dog Comedy Theater are broadcasting from the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. So the last few weeks I've been sharing an excerpt from an Al Jazeera featured article called Canada's Crying Shame About Residential Schools as part of my land acknowledgement. The reason I do this is because it's a reminder for us to pay attention to history as it happens and not just apologize for things that happened in the past. So, things are still happening today. And I think the Al Jazeera feature article does a really good job of talking about residential schools and its history. So I'm going to read a part of it in case you haven't had the chance to look at it yet. Just a content warning that what I'm about to read contains upsetting themes around the trauma of residential schools. Okay, so I'm going to begin now. There were 139 residential schools attended by an estimated 150,000 First Nations, Inuit, and Métis children in Canada. The first school opened in 1831 and the last one closed in 1996. The institutions, intended to erode Indigenous culture, language, and family and community ties, were notorious for the neglect and abuse of the children who were forced to attend them. Thousands of Indigenous children died at the schools, with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the TRC of Canada, conservatively estimating between 4,000 to 6,000 deaths. So as a comment to that, those were conservative numbers. I think as of today, it's an upward of 7,000. In 2009, the Canadian government turned down requests from the TRC for $1.5 million in funding to help identify the location of burial sites of children at the former residential schools. So anything with the words $1 million sounds like a lot, but $1.5 million is what you're expected to pay to buy a house in Toronto. One house. So, I think that really puts a perspective on the Canadian government's priorities, really. So anyway, continuing on. So some First Nations communities began using their own resources to hire specialists operating ground-penetrating radar to find the graves. And at the end of May, they uncovered the remains of 215 children buried at the former Kamloops Indian Residential School in British Columbia. Pay attention to history. And this is my final episode. So one thing I want to add to is I am a Filipina immigrant and settler here in Canada. My people, the Tausug people, also faced 300 to 400, not to equate the two, but just to say that colonialism happens everywhere all the time and it's still happening. So my people faced 400 years of oppression, and basically the thing is I'm here talking in front of you as someone who has no idea and very little connection to my people, and really in my future I don't foresee myself going home and reconnecting to that culture, which is, I don't know, kind of sad to think about. So very complex relationship with colonialism, and a part of that practice actually involves of reconnecting to my culture involves some of the folks that we've invited today. Welcome to the show. This season of 5 Things was hosted by me. This is the last episode, and I'm going to be talking to I did talk to some of my most favorite people in comedy, and we got to talk a little bit about why they do comedy, why they tell the stories that they do. And tonight, I'm bringing on members of the Tita Collective. So before we bring them on, 5 Things is based on an improv game. So just to warm me up. So Shannon, could you give me a suggestion for what I can warm up with?
5 places you prefer to sit.
Oh, okay. You know what? I actually think a lot about different kinds of chairs. So, and places to sit. Thank you. My favorite chair to sit on is one that is like a dining table. Like I would take a dining table chair over like a low chair at any point in time. I don't know. I think it's a height thing. I'm a very short person, so that might be like a Napoleon complex thing. I also love sitting under trees, like because it's just so romantic. Have a book under a tree. I love sitting on. What am I saying? I love sitting in a hot tub. Who does it? Right? Yeah. Oh man. It's cold. A hot tub would be so nice now, but maybe not outside. I don't know. Do people do hot tubs in the winter? Anyway, moving on. 4th thing that I like to sit. I love sitting in libraries. It's just so, I don't know. I feel smarter as soon as I'm in the library, even though I probably haven't read a full book in a long time. Because you know what? I prefer documentaries. Sorry, books. I wrote a book, by the way. Haha. 5th thing I love to sit. You know what? Like I really, really like one of my favorite places to sit is like this is also it's not a library, but a bookstore. Actually, yeah, sorry books, Shannon. Shannon says sorry books. I love sitting in bookstores. I don't know. Maybe it's the capitalist in me. Bookstores are really just libraries where you can purchase the books. Anyway, moving on. Today's guest is the Tita Collective, which I am a part of. So a little bit about the Tita Collective. They're an award-winning, or we are an award-winning all-Filipino ensemble of multidisciplinary artists based in Toronto. We call ourselves a sisterhood of artists based in Toronto, composed of actors, comedians, singers, musicians, dancers, playwrights, creators. There are 5 of us, so I guess many of us carry multiple hats. Anyway, without further ado, let's bring on 2 members of the Tita Collective, Belinda Corbus and Mary Chris Rivera. Coming up. Hi. Hello. How's it going? It's not as though we don't talk every day, multiple times a day, but how are you?
I'm just thinking about my favorite places to sit now.
Oh, what is a favorite place of yours to sit?
What is this chair? It's a very comfy chair that I think I got during pandemic, and I have no regrets about it.
Is it like a thrift or a new one?
No, it's a new one. I thought about doing thrift, but it was also, during the first couple months of pandemic where you're just really paranoid, like, are the things that I'm getting at my grocery store, do I have to wipe down my fruit? And like my cereal boxes and all that kind of stuff. So we figured it's probably better just to go for new, but this thing's gonna last a very long time.
Fair. How about you, Belinda? Where's your favorite place to sit?
The ground. No, I'm joking.
Hey, fair.
No, I don't know why I said it so dramatically.
No, you're a drama queen.
She's an actor.
It's true.
Yeah, like honestly, like I love a good floor cushion. Like that was the thing during the pandemic. I was like, I'm gonna buy a floor cushion, which is not very different from just a pillow that you put on the floor and sit on, but like whatever.
Is that what happened when you opened the package? You're like, oh,
it's just a fancy pillow that's in the shape of a square like all the other pillows and maybe extra padding, whatever. It was just an impulse buy, but it had a nice design, so that's my favorite place to sit when I'm at home.
It's got good structure too.
Yeah, like it's America's has seen. Well, you've both seen it. Like it has like some like squish.
You gotta have squish. You gotta. You know what?
I'm doing great.
Squish is good for the spine. I love a good squish on a chair. Although I do enjoy a sturdy chair. It's either like squish or not. Squish or no.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
You gotta have squish. Yeah. It's true.
It's true.
Gotta love the
It's
squish.
true.
Anyway, so on that note, speaking of jokes, ha ha ha. Okay, so the Tita Collective, right? I mean, I guess maybe let's start like this. How would either of you describe the Tita Collective?
I would say a sisterhood for sure.
Yeah.
And like a support system, you know? Yeah.
How about you, Mary Chris?
If we're talking also about like the work that we do, it's like definitely it's a sisterhood and it's a support system, like you said, but we're of multidisciplinary artists because who says we have to pick one art form?
That's true.
You know?
Well, I mean, let's start. Well, like most people know us more for a show, Tita Jokes. So let's start with Tita Jokes, and why that came together, right? And I think we have done this spiel so many times, but I don't think we've taken a chance to really like individually like reflect. So so first of all, what is Tita Jokes, and like what did it mean to you to make this kind of show?
You can go ahead.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I don't mind. Rock, paper, scissors. No.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I just put myself on the spot. No, it's all good. Well, like in the basic thing, Tita Jokes is a show that it is a love story to our titas, to the elders and our loved ones in the community. Like, which our loved one is the community. Just to put like a short description on what Tita Jokes is. Tita Jokes, I think for me was an opportunity to be able to tell stories that I didn't even dream would be on. Well, no, I wouldn't say that because this was like a dream. Let me retract that. I didn't see growing up on stage or on TV or anywhere, you know? And I think the beautiful thing about Tita Jokes is that it wasn't made alone. It was made with a group of Filipinas that really had that same dream and that same goal, which was to just tell stories from our various perspectives, because we're not a monolith. Like we all were able to put our voice in and share space with each other, and then share that with our community, and the joy of having of seeing them feel like be seen with us was just like it just, you know, having that reciprocal relationship with the audience was such a beautiful thing when we were able to do it live prior to the great lockdown. So yeah, that's my answer for now.
I love how you call it the Great Lockdown.
Yeah, right.
Like not great as in woohoo, great
Who
as
decided it was great?
I
didn't mean like woohoo, like
Great Depression,
because it was,
right?
Yeah,
right.
yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Why do we call these things great?
Who decided this?
I mean, there are many facets to the word great. Anyway.
It's true. Sorry. You know what? To clarify, Tita Jokes was thing number 1.
Yes.
I was like, it's the last show, so you know what? Let's forget the whole format. Sorry. Okay, so Mary Chris, how about you? Like, so I'm asking this because prior to Tita Jokes, although you probably touched comedy in your different artistic practices, this was probably the first like sketch comedy show you'd ever been a part of. So I'm also curious, like Mary Chris, like what did Tita Jokes, like what did making that mean to you?
Oh my god, it was, not gonna lie, it was scary because for one thing, it's like we are putting our stories, our experiences live on stage, and yeah, it's comedy, but at the same time, it's when you haven't had that representation of seeing yourself in the art that you consume on a very regular basis, it can be a little like overwhelming. But getting to do Tita Jokes with the Tita Collective, I also felt really safe, and it just felt, I think my favorite part about it is just like there's so much play in it. Like we've done different reiterations of this, you know, this extravagant bonga musical sketch comedy review, and I've only had never really done improv before in terms of like the comedy world, and even that was like it had been a few years since that had happened. But getting to do it with the titas and getting to write just kind of getting to write our stories, our jokes, the things that are literal like titas and moms and like titos would say, and getting to do with everyone just felt really safe and be like, oh yeah, you know the thing that I'm talking about. How about when they do this? And it's just like, yeah, I also know what that is. And we can just kind of keep elevating each other. Punching up, sure, but I like the word like elevating. And then so there's, and like we've done so many iterations of the show where it's been as short as like 20 minutes versus like 75 minutes. But every time we do it, it's so much fun, and I feel like we always find new things that like we can play with, or what if we just try doing this differently, or someone we will just like throw in a totally random improv like beat or joke or something that just it keeps it fun, and it keeps it but it still like exists in the same world and the experiences that we know from growing up in the diaspora, and you know, kind of like bringing things that like our own family members would say. I don't know, it's nice to not live in the traumatic parts of what it's like being us, and just to experience the joy and the laughter and like the really fun times. And it's just basically kind of like a big fam jam that I really love and really miss getting to do with you all live.
Yeah. So you know what, like a theme that keeps coming up in both of like, I think in our like, not, I don't want to say canned response, but in our very like, you know, well-worn response about like what is Tita Collective and what is Tita Jokes, and then even like your responses today, a thing that keeps coming up is like having a safe space to explore art. And so I'm gonna say thing number 2 is like the importance of having a safe space to create to explore comedy or art. So thing number 2, safe space. So I'm actually really curious because Belinda, you went to an art school from high school and then you did U of T jazz, the vocal program,
the jazz program,
program, and then Mary Chris, you went to ESA at Etobicoke School for the Arts, and you went to Cardinal Carter, Belinda, right? And then you also went on to do what did you study? Like even at X University?
It was Arts and Contemporary Studies, which is basically like the Choose Your Own Adventure program,
right,
in the Faculty of Arts. So I majored in culture studies, and then I double minored in marketing and English.
Right,
because we could just do all that.
And you've since then also worked in several like very well respected institutions, and a thing we always talk about is creating period in institution versus creating in a collective space that you created. How does it feel to create in the Tita Collective versus how did it feel creating an institution?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
we're getting into it.
Okay, let's do it. I mean,
a theme for this 5-thing season is like that. We're biased against institution. This is not. I'm not hiding that. I'm not. So go on. Answer this loaded question.
Where do you start? So when I was working in like a lot of like different like. I work a lot in like theater institutions, and a lot of that is one thing. It's like from an administrative role, but you know, try to talk about the things that are important to me and trying to see like the changes that I want to see in the theater community. It's just okay. While we're in there, can we have these discussions and actually work towards that? Sometimes it gets somewhere. A lot of times it doesn't, and that's not fun. And like I'm sure that there are definitely pros to being able to create and work in institutional kind of way, but it always like I don't know about how either of you feel, but I know for me it always feels like I'm hiding part of myself, or I'm not really being true to true to me and true to what I actually want to say, because, you know, you have to listen to the higher ups. They're the ones who have to decide. You want to kind of make them like you and respect you, and I don't know, it's always just felt like I'd like to be my full self here. I don't think I really can be. There's always at least some sort of layer. Oh, hi, Ellie. I see the God bless you. But then, so yeah, I mean, like I can see it working for sure, and it does. You know, love to get to work at some of these places as like an actor, performer, or whatever. But it's just really different when when we get to create with the Tita Collective with my sisters here, because that's like it's the place where I really feel like I can be totally myself. Like all the walls are down. Y'all have seen me in my best and my worst, and in the panic attacks that all come with that. I love you too. And just being able to actually feel like freely feel that, and like I'm not afraid to feel my feelings. It's just like if I just need to like rant about something, I know that for one thing, the thing I might be ranting about is something that we also all might be feeling too. But then we also might, you know what? Maybe let's make something out of this, and that's always a really nice kind of avenue to explore that. That's a long-winded answer, but you know, along those lines, it's just like when it's with the Tita Collective, just like it's me and all of the glory, and I don't feel like I have to hide anything.
How about you, Belinda?
Yeah, I mean, ditto in many ways. And I think the one thing is like with Tita Collective, we're able to create. Why it's so safe is because it's always on our terms, and we've worked really hard to foster a safe space, you know, and we really worked hard. Like the thing is, like we have put effort in trying to create a culture within ourselves where we can be vulnerable and we can share our truest selves and our most transparent selves. And I think just, you know, riffing off of what you're saying, Mary Chris, like institutions, yeah, you do feel like you're walking with, you know, a bag of masks, depending where you are in the institution, who you're talking to in the institution, because there's just a lot of gatekeeping in institutions. There's a lot of expectations that are, you know, expectation of perfection, which is just like unattainable in general. You know, you're just not given the permission to fail or the permission to try things, because it has to be to a certain to a certain level in order to be validated. You know, like institutions are definitely just like I see why they were created, and I see like, I mean, there might be some benefits. I don't know. I'm very like, but you know, like I guess in the way that you can gather with hopefully like-minded people, but institutions are bubbles, and I think what is beautiful about Tita Collective is we also foster like a space where we can have boundaries, a space where we can, you know, if we need something, like just even for ourselves, like even if it's just time to rest, like I think we've grown to really, you know, figure out like how that can work for us and what benefits us. So when we do things like Tita Jokes or like the many projects that we have lined up, we can hold each other, and we can also just, you know, be well rested. I think institutions like the thing is like they just draw so much out of the individual that by the time you've ended a program, you're just wiped, you know. And I've seen that with a lot of friends of mine, or just like people I've gone through these programs with, where a lot of them quit or a lot of them don't feel motivated to create art anymore because they're just so tired and so run down by the expectations of institutions. And let's be real, institutions, they were created, at the end of the day, they were created from a colonial mindset. So I think, you know, Tita Collective, because of our awareness of like social justice and our evolving and growing, you know, awareness of that, like I think that's something we've tried really hard to just even practice within ourselves. you know?
Yeah. And I think maybe it's a little bit unfair to like say institutions versus collective creation. I think really like the more constructive angle to this is that we are really making an argument for collective creation and creating pockets of safety in which to create and play. So it's hard work. It's hard work and so much commitment to create the space that we do because we had to really learn to trust each other, and we also as a group have to make space and hold space for our full selves, and also have to evolve together, and that just requires a lot of energy that, you know, if you're an institution and you're a center of power and you're built on principles of that really came from scarcity, right? Like it's just like some of that is just immutable, whereas like a collective will grow and evolve with you as an artist. Yeah, I always am like, if I kind of really wish that more people were in collectives, but just so they would know how important it is to have like a space to play. And yeah, well, thing number 3, let's talk about play, because we've been talking about this recently, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the most fun things about, you know, putting out the intention of creating a comedy show is that there's really an intention of play. Although all art is creative and has play. Well, obviously, comedy, I think, really takes a kick in setting the intention of like, you know, we're going to come into this, we're going to make people laugh. And you know what? Because that's our intention, that's the spirit we're going to bring into it. And we just did digital prime time at Fringe. And I think my takeaway from that was like, it was really a nice space to play. And I wonder what your thoughts were if we were aligned in that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, actually it was like, I agree. I think online shows can be very scary, but they're definitely a part of the reality now. And doing that show was just, it was so fun because one, like it had been a while, you know, it had been a while since we did something live, or you know, we also had pre-recorded elements. Shout out to Ellie and Paula, and Paula, and their videos were awesome. So like to be able to like meld those elements together, and there was still a live aspect to it because like you're seeing it again with fresh eyes. You're seeing it again like on a different day than the last time you saw it. And I think that's why it was so fun for me, was just like every day was different. Like literally every day was different. Like we'd have the script and we're like, I didn't say any of the words that were on that screen, but I found something else, and I actually got to laugh with people in this like funny shared metaverse space. Yeah, so it was I think even that was fun, like getting to like explore what this space was and how we could make it our own was super cool, you know. And I hadn't experienced that, especially during this pandemic. I really haven't experienced that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna jump in and explain what the digital primetime is, which I should have. So the Fringe Festival, shout out to the Fringe, put together another mini festival, which I think had 5 or 6 shows. I want to say 5. It doesn't matter.
I think it was 5.
5. It was 5 shows.
Like 5 things,
and basically the shows occurred in like a metaverse type space called Gather Town, where you as your avatar could explore different spaces that the different shows had created. So we, the Tita Collective, created Titaville, which basically had a center, like a square where everyone gathered, and then each Tita, so there are 5 of us, had their own house, and it was themed to that Tita's personality. And I would say since the start, since the beginning of the pandemic, that was really the first time we collectively performed a live show with a new format with new material.
Yes.
Which is why, like you were talking about Belinda, it was scary. So sorry, go on, Mary Chris. What was your experience of play and like in this brand new space with brand new material?
I loved it. Honestly, it was so much fun. And another thing about Gather Town is like Ali mentioned that you have like a little avatar, and Belinda and I both play video games like Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing. So basically, when I found out what the platform was, I was freaking out. It's just like, oh my god, it's like a live show and it's a video game. It's like I could have like, you know, purple hair and I have a little hat and I have a little house and we get to do all these different things, but I also get to perform. What is this? So got really excited about that. So that just kind of like, it also like brought that element of play to it, because it's like, I'm navigating like I'm in a video game. This is really fun. But also the aspect of play of, Belinda already touched on this, but like the whole thing of it being, you're seeing it with fresh eyes, and we have like, you know, new audience members who've never seen the show before, and getting to see how they react both with the platform and to the show, because everybody kind of follows each of the Titas around, but you know, there's a chat function, there's different emojis that you can that your avatar can create. So there's like a thumbs up or a heart or basically any kind of reaction you wanted to do to it. And I always thought it was so much fun getting to see how they interacted with it. And it was also nice to get to hear everybody too. So this is like it, like Belinda said, online shows are hard, but with this platform, the way that it was kind of built and the way that we had kind of just brought everybody into Titaville to just kind of like show who we are. Some of them have like left their microphones on so we could hear them laughing and reacting to this new material that we had never done for an audience before. And you kind of forget about that when you do online shows and you don't have that live, you know, interactions or live feedback. Not feedback like sound things, but like anyways. I was going to start to go into tech knowledge, into tech info there. That's not what I'm talking about. But like actually getting to hear audiences' laughter and then getting to, you know, play off of that was really fun. And we got to bring in elements of improv where it's like, yeah, I'm not reading what that was there on the script, or I'm gonna make like this reference today. By the end of it, my Tita character I learned she was a big Swiftie. So there's also like new discoveries, and we can make that, and then you know, just get everybody to, you know, say fuck off Jake Gyllenhaal. But
hey, yeah, fuck off Jake Gyllenhaal.
I mean, specifically in the context of All Too Well in the 10-minute version, because that's the whole thing. I'm gonna stop there because I can go off on that.
Well, but I mean, how did it feel though going back to live? I guess because in a way, even though it is digital, most of the digital stuff we did, I think, has been pre-recorded.
Mm-hmm. I was kind of nervous.
Why? Why is that? Why were you nervous?
I think it's a little bit of that. Yeah, we're getting back into actually doing a live show where, we can't just edit out any bloopers or any mistakes. It's like, oh no, this is like what I'm saying, whatever it will be, is just out there. People are going to say it, are going to watch it and hear it, and I can't take that back.
Yeah. Belinda, how did you feel? Did you have any anxiety about like that platform?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there was a lot. Yeah, I think I mean at all levels there was anxiety, because again it was like, oh, this like I have to do this. I haven't done this in a while, like this live, you know, I haven't brought my live self out into the world. And there's just like this level of vulnerability, or like you're just vulnerable when you're doing things live, right? And I think because I know for myself, like I have a lot of social anxiety, so I tend to just like not go out or like go out to parties or anything even before the pandemic. So then kind of just being like holed up at home, having the prospect of a live show was really anxiety inducing, because it was just like, oh, I have to share myself in this way. And it's not like a self-tape. It's not like, you know, yeah, like Mary Chris said, you can't just like cut and paste or like take a different take. Like everything is just what it is in real time. And there, you don't have that sense of control, you know? And but then it's so liberating after doing it. You're like, oh yeah, like this is why I love doing this. But I think there was also excitement. There was just a lot of excitement to do it again amongst the anxiety. And there was a lot of like, how do I transfer this anxiety into excitement and focus? So I can do the task at hand, which is to tell the story, you know? So yeah.
Yeah. Well, for me, I think I was really nervous. I think it's always nervous to debut comedy work that hasn't necessarily been workshopped before. Especially in the on any Fringe. Like Fringe is an experimental festival, but it's still a big deal, right? It's like, do you know what I like? I don't know. So the Fringe Festival like really is a great supporter of the arts, like, the whole point. It's the Fringe, right? It's like arts at the Fringe, but they still are situated at a level of like, if you get reviews from the Fringe, or if you get any acknowledgement from the Fringe, it's like it's a big deal. And so I guess what I'm going to bring up is right before the pandemic hit, 2019, we did a new version of Tita Jokes at the Next Stage Festival.
It was 2020.
Oh, 2020 January.
Right, January.
2020 January. Whatever. What is time? I know. What is time?
What was 2020?
It was so pre-pandemic. So.
Yeah. So 2020, we had put out Tita Jokes on Next Stage, and we got reviewed. Right? And for the most part, the feedback was really good, but we got reviewed by Lynn Slotkin. I'm just going to say, who cares? By Lynn Slotkin, and some of that review was really unfair. So for me, like a part of that was to go from that and then kind of carry that, which I didn't realize I was carrying, to opening a new show with the potential of being reviewed, kind of gave me a lot of anxiety. So the conversation that came from the 2019 review, because it was super unfair, I think, whatever, everyone go look it up.
You want to get angry, you want to blood boil.
Well, basically sparked a lot of conversation around reviews and reviewing POC shows. And I think the statement, and don't get me wrong, reviews are there to like support work and to help it grow if it's done constructively, right? And the thing that really angered me, I think this was the statement, like the Tita Collective needs to decide who their show is for. And that was so unfair. I'm like, so what? It's for, we do it for our community, but it's really for everyone. And you're a guest in this point of view, which is what I think is really beautiful about theater. I've seen so much theater that's not the Filipino point of view, and I can enjoy it, Lynn.
What a concept.
But like, I think we'll talk about reviews after this, but like, I think the point that I'm trying to make was, so for Fringe primetime, after that entire conversation of like, what is the appropriate way to review shows that most people don't really understand because they haven't had a chance to really get it, lack of representation. For me, a big important part of like how playful we got with this show in this experimental format is that we asked for no reviewers. Right. And I have my own feelings just having come through it. And I like, did that impact the experience for you in any way?
Totally. It felt safer. It felt a lot nicer. Felt like we could play so much more because I didn't have to worry, it has to go over so well because so and so is coming to this, and if we get a bad review, it could really tank us. I'm like, I don't want to have to worry about a review tanking our reputation, especially because this is new material that we've never done for an audience before. I think it's a lot of like workshopping that we're doing here too. And so because we didn't have to worry about who was coming to see it, like obviously we want people to see it, but I don't want to have to worry so much about what they think about it. And I think we really just got to, live as our characters and live in this and like really just kind of be present in Titaville and get to experience it like with the audience too. And with just, I'm sure like, people will judge whether they're a reviewer or not. But knowing that there were no reviewers coming to the show, or that we weren't gonna get anything like that, it just felt, yeah, just so much safer. So it was just so nice, and we got to be so playful. And if things went off the rails, then they went off the rails, and we didn't have to worry about.
And when it went off the rails, when we allowed it to go off the rails, it actually became funnier.
Oh, absolutely.
Exactly.
Which I don't think we would have done if, you know. So how about you, Belinda? Like, what was your, like, did that impact your experience of doing the show?
Yeah, like exponentially. Like it's, you're just liberated. Like you're just liberated from like unrealistic expectations that, like, you know, when there's like when you hear there are reviewers, you're like, oh, like, I don't know. I know for myself, I get this like I think it's just been on my mind because I've mentioned it before, but I get into like this mindset of like having to be perfect. And then that becomes a fixed mindset. And then that just like creates a barrier within me where I can't necessarily be creative because I'm not being vulnerable and I'm not being transparent. As myself or as the character or as part of the story, like with the audience. I can't have that connection. Or like you can, like, you know, training teaches you that you can, but like it's, you know, you know that it's off because of that, you know, there's that inner critic. There's literally just that inner critic in your mind that you've created because you've heard there's like, you know, the prospect of a review. And like not having reviews was just like, yeah, it was just so liberating. Like we could just be ourselves. And like, if it was a mistake, it wasn't really a mistake. It actually was a gift. Like you could really just accept everything moment to moment and be moment to moment. Which I think is just, you know, just something that like I know I will carry through even in shows that, you know, will inevitably get reviewed. Like it just taught me like, you know what, I can't put so much weight on this anymore. It doesn't really matter, because it doesn't serve the work. It doesn't serve the storytelling.
Yeah. We don't make shows to. Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
Like we don't make shows to get reviewed. We make it for us, and we make it for our community.
Well,
exactly.
Okay, almost like opposite thought though. There is for me a part towards the end where it's like, I wish now we could get reviewed.
Oh, yeah.
There is a part of me that's like so grateful that opening night, preview night, first show, which is when reviews happen. I'm so grateful it didn't. But then once we figured out the rhythm of the show, like midway onward, I was like, it wouldn't have been so bad to be reviewed. And like, this is like, for me, like a half-baked thought. But for me, like my gut instinct was like, maybe in creating things, we're not given enough time to incubate them because the resources are so low. And for whatever reason, reviews always come at the top because of capitalistic reasons and not necessarily for creative reasons. Right.
Yep.
I don't know. Like, I think in a weird, perfect world where we don't live in a capitalist society, which we do, whatever, we're all subscribed to it. Like, I know people are like, you do show, reviews are supposed to help artists. My reviews, like, it's made artists feel just bad because we're doing the best we can with what resources we have. But I think also if they were for constructive, you know, for you know, to improve the art form and stuff, they would be maybe towards the end when, you know, the artist feels settled in the theater. I don't know. It's a half-baked thought, but there is, I won't lie, there was a part of me that missed it. Because I was like, I would have loved feedback also when I was ready to do
the thing.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing for reviewers where I'm you know, there have been some great reviewers, right? There's been like John Kaplan, you know, and really someone who knows the process and who knows that those things are supposed to serve the artist and serve the storytelling, because they themselves are part of the audience. And, you know, I think it is just so important as storytellers who perform too, to have that, you have to have a reciprocal relationship with the audience member. And at the end of the day, the reviewer is an audience member. So there's that sense of like, how do we give to each other rather than, striking down, punching down on and like having these judgments on a story that may, like us, like is still in development,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have like, I hope there are reviewers out there who lead with more generosity than judgment,
Yeah. And
Those are the type of reviews that we'd like. Or like they're also the ones that are like, they're more interesting to read, and that actually like you get to feel like as a reader. I think those are the types of reviews which is like, oh, this is actually what it feels like to be part of the audience, not just someone observing, but to actually get to experience what they're feeling, what like the themes that the shows usually talk about. I'm thinking about John Kaplan's reviews now. Like, yeah. Maybe we're reviewers like him.
I know. Like I appreciate reviewers, and I also just want to point out at this point that for those reviewing comedy out there, there is more than just one institution. So go support comedy in Toronto, and don't just focus on an institution that can afford the PR. Anyway, moving on. Thing number 4. Thing number 4, talking about.
Oh no!
Suspense. What is thing number 4?
What is it? I legitimately don't know what thing number 4 is.
Let's guess what thing number 4 is. As we keep doing the show.
Without the host. Okay, what's fun?
We'll try our best to vamp.
Okay.
Thing number 4 could be anything.
Thing number
Get it? Anything.
4. I think the walls have ears, so they booted me out because I was being too spicy for the internet.
We're just dropping some truths there.
But anyway, pause here because we're gonna cut here. Thing number 4. We're talking about comedy. I'd love to know what kind of comedy is making you really giggle these days, because I know you two love sort of an absurd. We have the Tita Collective. We have there's 5 women, and we have a range of comedy that we like. So, Mary Chris, what kind of comedy is making you smile these days?
Well, it's not original law because we were talking about it, but Auntie Donna is someone. I know one of you was going to bring it up, but I can't help it. That's the first thing that came to mind.
Auntie Donna. Auntie Donna's Big Old House. I love Auntie Donna so much. Everyone need to watch it. Oh my God. Yeah.
They have live concert comedy shows, and I'm like, oh, it's really inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Belinda? Is that it?
Right. I love Reservation Dogs, I have to say. That show makes me laugh, breaks my heart, puts it together again. That show is if you haven't seen that show, it's on Disney Plus, and features some amazing Indigenous artists and creatives on Turtle Island, and it's amazing. It's such a good show. Yeah.
We love a Oh, sorry, Marcus, you were gonna say something?
I just say one more thing because I love we're on a comedy podcast right now. I'm gonna shout another comedy podcast that I just listened to today. There's this really great one called "Yo, Is This Racist?" that I've listened to the past couple of years.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing.
So it's hosted by Andrew T and Tawny Newsome, who's they're both American comedians, but Tawny's a mixed race Black woman, and Andrew is a Chinese American, and they get basically the premise of the show is people will call in to this to their voicemail and leave just a voicemail explaining something racist that may or may not something that happened to them that may or may not be racist. Some of it can be as some of it can get really dark, and it's just so my husband's family just has may or may not be Nazis kind of a thing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yep. 2 things
Okay.
The person that taught, I remember this one voicemail they had where it's like a white person who had called in and said, the Taco Bell employee didn't give me any like hot sauce for my order. Is that racist? I don't think so. It's just a big range of things that's just really ridiculous, and it's really funny, but it's also like you get into really good conversations about, you know, what it's like. And all of there's just so much shit that we have to put up with as people of color.
Yeah.
And some are just really funny that too.
Yeah.
And they went independent recently, so it was also really cool.
Yeah.
So now they're just like they're more free. They're like no to the institution.
Nice.
That's true. Thing number 4 is a good comedy with a point of view.
Yes.
Yeah. So so thing number 5, we have basically, so the collective is a group of women who have different artistic practices. We're producers, we write, we perform. A question that we've been asked is like, how does it stop from being overwhelming, from getting overwhelming?
It's always overwhelming.
Yeah, does it ever stop?
This is the podcast where the Tita Collective opens up and says we're exhausting ourselves and we should probably resign.
We didn't say that.
That's how we're gonna end the season. The Tita Collective is no more. We are choosing rest. Spoiler alert.
Oh my god.
Ellie in the chat is like, what?
Did not consent to this.
This is a Tita joke that is playing out poorly. Anyway, go on.
I think you learn to manage it. I think that's been the biggest thing. I think when I stopped thinking of like the extreme of like, I gotta get rid of it completely. It's like, no, it's gonna be there. Because there are parts of me that hold like even versions of overwhelm and anxiety, and they're all different. Like if it's like my inner child or like my manager or like, you know, all these things that therapy has guided me through.
We love therapy.
I think we love therapy. All of us love therapy. I think the biggest lesson was like just being able to manage it, and also, you know, if it happens, it happens, and like that instant forgiveness of like, you know what, I just have to forgive myself in this moment. That happened, or I'm overwhelmed here, but it'll pass, you know. Yeah,
I think a big thing too is like with all like, you know, with the projects that we take on, it's not like we're really intentional about the projects that we stay on. Like it has to be something that we feel really called to do, or feel really like, yeah, I want we really want to make this work, and it's gonna, like, I think it's going in knowing that it's gonna be a lot of work, but also knowing that it's gonna be worth it in the end, because you will have made this beautiful thing that we've been wanting to make, and we all have that intention that's like, we're gonna do it, but we're gonna do it. It's gonna be a lot of work, but hey, there are some things that we can plan for. There, you know, we can. I honestly, I'm just thinking about like our spreadsheet calendar that is just like so laid out, like we have a tab for every month. It's just like, okay, where do we have downtime? Where can we like dedicate time to creating and writing this? Where can we find time to rehearse it? And making sure that we also have it. When do we have time to rest?
Yeah.
Because that also should be prioritized. We can't really create, or we can't be our best creative selves if we're not well rested.
Yeah. Rest and celebrate. I think that's something we're still even learning, is like literally to celebrate what we've accomplished, or like what we've been through, and coming out on the other side. You know, it's so important to do that as well in rest, is just reflect, and then also like celebrate and have gratitude that it's like, I made it, we made it, we're here, and there's still like a very, you know, fruitful future ahead. So in order to get to that fruitful future, you gotta rest. You know, because what is it going to be worth if you're burnt out or run down constantly, right? And then you're not even able to like appreciate what you're doing. And I think part of that also is like returning to the intention that, like Mary Chris, like you mentioned, is like, you know, there in the overwhelm, you can feel lost. And if you just return to the intention of why you started that thing in the first place, or why you're doing this in the first place, then it's like that becomes like a guiding post for everything else.
Yeah. And for me, it really harkens back to something you brought up earlier in our conversation today, Mary Chris, is first and foremost, even though like we are an artist collective, but we say sisterhood of artists intentionally because first and foremost, the Tita Collective is a support system. We started off as a support system because we as Filipinas were going through the same thing, experiencing the same kinds of obstacles in our careers and the same kinds of frustrations and emotional challenges. And like when we came together and we were, when we came together, we just became like a peer support group, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we decided that we created a space safe enough to start making things. But I think we have our mandate. So there are two pieces to that. So I think a lot of people see us and are like, you guys do music, comedy, film, whatever, you do everything. But all of that goes back to our intention, our mandate, which is to, you know, tell authentic stories about the Philippine diaspora. So even though we explore that in different mediums. So it doesn't feel so it always just feels like we're pushing what we're trying to explore, which is our connection to our roots at the end of the day and our identities as Filipinas. The second thing is our priority is to the sisterhood. So if all of these projects and opportunities are just hurting the sisterhood, we can just stop.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's rare. Like I think you're really taught that if you stop, you're going to disappear. But I think what I've learned in this collective is like, if you stop, then you get to have this amazing space that we've built and invested in for, and so if we stop, we can sustain it for a lifetime. So so that's for me, like, going back to intentions is literally what you just said, Belinda. Yeah. Well,
just leave out the more Posse's there.
On that note, that was the fifth thing. On that note, I'm going to end today with a lightning round. And I know there's two of you, so just shout out whichever one. Okay, here we go. Olivia Rodrigo or BTS?
BTS.
Rodrigo.
No, Olivia Rodrigo. Because she's one of us. But I'm in the BTS phase.
Hey,
I am.
this is
You're
recorded.
in the BTS phase.
Here we go.
Okay,
Kathleen
ask me
or
next year.
BTS?
Kathleen.
BTS.
Duh.
Sinigang or Kamayan?
Oh,
Sinigang.
I know Ellie
Sinigang.
Pasadas in the chat is yelling Sinigang where she is right now.
I see you, girl.
Sylvanas or Sans Rival?
Sylvanas.
All right, shout out to Tita Parley's, not an ad, who serve both. And last thing is, what is next for the Tita Collective, or what is next for either of you? Belinda, go first.
Oh my gosh, there's so much that's next. Things we cannot talk about, things we can talk about. Let's just say, like, there are many amazing new things to expect from Tita Collective next year, which is 2022. So keep an eye out on our IG, which is like on the little awesome banner that's passing through. For myself, I'm going to be in Next Stage actually in January in a musical called Ursa, a folk musical. So you can check that out. Tickets are on sale now.
Cool. Merry Chris?
Not much, to be honest, because Belinda already talked about that thing and then that thing, and
there's nothing to talk about. But anyway, well,
I don't know. Just I don't know. You can follow me on Instagram or TikTok, where I may or may not post. I've gotten really bad at not posting things on social media, but
That's
Pretty
okay.
fun.
Yeah, well,
We'll
you
see.
can catch Mary Chris as the star of a new series of memes that we're trying out, where Mary Chris
It's so
uses
good.
Mary Chris escapes from, the needs of capitalism through musical theater. So check us out
Yes.
on Instagram at Tita.collective
There we go.
Yes.
on
We have so many.
Instagram. And then, Twitter we barely use, whatever. So just follow us on Instagram. And that's the show. And that's the season. Thank you so much, Belinda, Mary Chris, and Ellie. What?
Your book.
Buy your book.
Oh, whatever. Buy my book, Super Important Filipino Thoughts. Just whatever, buy it. Anyway, thank you so much, Tita Collective. Thank you, Ellie, in the chat. Thank you, AP, who is
Thank you, AP.
wrapping up her first semester of the Masters. We're so proud of you. And thank you so much to Bad Dog Theater and Shannon, our tech and producer. And thank you to you for joining us for 5 things at Bad Dog Comedy TV. Check out, of all of the other cool things that's happening on Bad Dog Comedy TV. And if you haven't yet, please hit follow or subscribe to this channel to keep up to date on all of the cool programming that Bad Dog has coming your way. And if you would like to support the show, consider donating to www.baddogtheater.com/5things. And that's it. So thank you so much. It has been a pleasure to host this season. Go check out all the other amazing episodes of all my very, very famous and attractive friends.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know what just happened. Anyway, so I've been Alia Rasul by my book. I am Alia by my book Rasul. And in the words of our people, ingat.
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 Take care and have